Turn your mics on, please, for Terry.
No, for the video.
For the video. Thank you, Terry. There's no one from the public here for public comment. Motion to approve the agenda. Okay, no discussion or dissent. That carries unanimously. Roll call, Richard Hussey, Peter Kaiser, myself, Stephen Welch, and Jason Bridges currently. I'd like to get a motion, please, to approve the minutes of 9:13.
So moved.
Okay, no discussion or dissent. That carries unanimously. And to hold the minutes thereafter. So review. Okay, no discussion or dissent. That carries unanimously. We have with us this morning David Gray. Welcome, David.
Good morning.
To review FY20 sewer enterprise requests and out years. And I'm going to structure this, I'll ask your indulgence. I'm going to structure this a little differently this morning just because we've got some SIP request forms that we are going to need. We have some backup details we're going to need, and I'd like to kind of direct the meeting so that we can at least cover those that we have, even if they are old SIP request forms, and then we'll delve into what else is there. I wanted to get, let me, bear with me a second. Okay, and then there'll be some comments as we go on other requests. So David, what I'd like to do, if you would please, is we're gonna do the CMOM, perimeter fencing, and Surfside wastewater treatment facility phase 2. And then we're going to do Jetties Beach Bathing Road, Goose Pond Bike Path, the replace loader, 1-ton truck, and rotting truck. And then I think we'll maybe do just a brief discussion on placeholders, which are the Harbor Place, very brief, and the South Shore Road Improvement, very brief. And then we will see where we are. At that point, we will either address SIP requests that have no backup, or SIP requests that have no, or requests that have no SIP request form. But we'll kind of see where we are. We may have you, well, we're going to have you back. We may have you back. I'd like to just keep any of those together that we need additional information on, or a SIP request form. Okay, so that's the lay of the land. So with that, if you'd start with the CMOM, with the FY20 request.
Okay, the CMOM program is underway because of a consent order from EPA due to some overflows that we had in 2015 and 16. This was put in 2 years ago now, and then we had put in placeholders for all the years going out for. Last year we did 100,000 linear feet of CCTV work, cleaning and camera work. We are now starting to get all the reports in on all the areas that were cambered, with actual hard numbers now of and recommendations for repairs, replacements, or other in a lot of the areas. To date, we have done no construction or reconstruction on any of the CMOM program. That's what the funding going out in the out years was for. So if we found a critical or a number 5 high profile area that needed to be addressed right away, we could, the ongoing CCTV work and cleaning could be ongoing on one part, and we could be doing some construction and repairs on other parts. The CMOM also comes with a couple of mandated, we have to do a yearly report in March to DEP, EPA, which we did last year's, which was the first one that we had to do. We also have to have a fully developed CMOM manual. Currently it's 296 pages long, that outlines everything from training required, safety required, what kind of nozzle, cutter, etc. you use to take in rod lines, jet lines, snake lines. It's an extremely detailed program, and just I'm about halfway through the manual now, just reading through it and just checking it and overviewing it. And the other part of the CMOP thing was a lot of training. We've had specialized instructors come down to give specialized training on the jet truck, the camera truck, and the rodding equipment. So we have certified operators now. It's all part of the CMOP program.
Okay.
I mean, I could get into the real nitty gritty of it, you know, but it's
No,
SOPs, how to do stuff, but.
Yeah, I think we'll maybe take some questions, and we have reviewed this previously. This is nothing new. I'm gonna have some comments, but let's take comments from the members. Jason?
I just have a basic question, David. In FY18, with the 1.75, that's what you did, the 100,000 linear feet.
That was the first year we did 100,000 linear feet and pressure washed, pressure cleaned all the lines of that and developed the draft manual, did all the reports that we were required to mandated.
Right.
We have an actual schedule of when the reports have to be issued and stuff, so, and Hazen and Sawyer is still ongoing with all that work now.
So that 1.7 was mostly for just almost like the research and
That
getting
was
it
basically
going.
the initial kickoff.
And then the 2 million going forward, I'm just kind of asking basics.
Yeah.
I don't have to get specific percentages, but the 2 million will be some construction, continued research,
Continued
kind of
research and
changes.
camera work, and then probably a little more construction in the out years going out. There'll be more and more construction.
Okay. So the percentages just kind of change a little bit
Yeah,
as you go forward.
it's a living document that has to be updated every single year. There's other software requirements for CMMS software and data collection, so it's definitely going to move up and down. Some years we may only use $1 million. We don't know.
Okay. I was curious how much of it is operating, how much of it is.
Those numbers are just now coming to fruition, so now we actually have hard numbers.
Okay.
We didn't at the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone else? Questions on the CMOM? So, David, I guess what I'm looking at, in an ideal world, we'd have at Capcom, we'd have some type of like a summary report as the program is maturing and developing, and we would know, you know, not necessarily detailed level. It could just refer back to the larger body of the report, but more of an executive summary that would cover what the total inventory of the different types of work to date that are going to be required, understanding that annually that will be updated. And I think along those lines, we don't really need to see report templates that Haynes and Sawyer had done, but if there's any other information that's going to help inform us, I think what I'm looking at is that we would have a body of information that we could refer to that gives us an idea of what upcoming work is going to be, that you will then be populating out years with dollar numbers, so that the report we would get or other parties might get would have that information as to what work is required to be done in terms of the inventory, and then it would give us a basic understanding and for discussion purposes. So I'm hoping that that's just something that they do as part of a summary section, and it's not creating additional work for you. And again, I said that's kind of an ideal, but I think that's where I believe we should be going as the committee in reviewing this project, which is a multi-year project. And I think it will help us help you define. Obviously, it's going to define what the costs are going to be in out years, but it helps us in that conversation. Mm-hmm. It starts that conversation. I think it's going to be an important one. These are going to likely be big dollars over the outgoing years, in the out years, and better to start sooner than later. So if you could footnote that, and I think the other thing I'd like to do is maybe we could pick that up. If Brian, if you don't mind, just as an outstanding item, Rebecca, if we would note to pick up an inventory summary report and any other broad CMOM in our capital project status report for FY19 and prior years. And then at that time, David, you could give us, you could just talk about a little details if other members are here and they have questions about what you've done with the lineal feed, and maybe a little bit of what those templates are about, and so on and so forth.
I have most of that now.
Yeah.
That, like, we can provide.
Yeah, you don't need to. It actually will fall under a different category of review, which is when we're reviewing back years. Mm-hmm. But it will also, if we have that inventory at that point, it will help to round out the discussion. Does that
Yes.
Okay, great. So that was it on the CMOM for me.
And we would have been a little further ahead on CMOM had it not been for the force main failure, because all resources had to get yanked from that, so.
Understand, and that point is well taken. And I think the other thing that I would like to ask is that if there are hard assets, equipment that were purchased in the CMOM, which we understand there were, going into it, we knew there would be, is that those are kind of included in the inventory of the capital project status report. And we don't need an ongoing report of that for out years, but we would want to know if new equipment is anticipated, so that if we had a certain amount of equipment in a particular year, you don't necessarily need to give us at inception the year or the dollar amount, but just know, in addition to this category, these are the categories of repairs or replacements. This is the equipment, and if that's something that comes out of the report that they're already doing, which I imagine to some extent it does, that would be helpful. Is that all good with you guys, Libby? Okay. I just want to make sure we're not.
Yeah, I think myself and we're all really supportive of CMOM. It's one of the smartest things we could do with
Yeah,
sewers,
definitely.
but we need to understand it so we can support it.
Yeah.
Explain it.
Right, and I think the other part of that is that if we get documentation, then that might go further as our process matures and resources are in place to be posting that after it's been reviewed, properly reviewed through channels, so that people in the community who want to look into it can. And then we can also refer people to documents, because it's not easy to give people any level of detail when you talk to them. And there's at least a handful of people who ask, but.
Now, in our discussions that we've had in the past, maps and stuff, do you want all that kind of documentation to be put, I don't know if it gets put on a website, or it just goes to Libby, or?
I'm not gonna suggest we do anything with websites at this point. I'm just looking for a body of information that's summary level, that tells us what we can anticipate for work by category, and then maybe the total number of feet. If there's a cost estimate, that's great. If there's not, that will be developed. And any equipment that is anticipated to be required. And then we'll review that same scope looking backwards when we review FY18. So that would be for out years. And then that way you don't have to give us the CMOM report every year, the full, the packet that's in the packet now.
It'll be like a summary.
Yeah, just be like a sheet that says this, that, and the other thing. Very technical terms, this, that, and the other thing. Peter?
Real quick, so I see this is extended out to fiscal year 2023. Is that like a hard finish date for this, or is there a chance that it continues because there's more complications that require, additional analysis?
The development of the CMOM and some investigation stuff will probably stop, but then we'll get more into repairs and the replacements or whatever.
So that might be kind of an ongoing annual kind of like collection system rehab in a sense.
I think as we go forward, we get once we get year 1 and 2 done, it's going to give us a baseline of
Better idea.
where we should go, and then we'll know that this will transition more into construction possibly.
Right.
We still have to have the yearly reports. We still have to have all the quarterly reports for DEP and EPA. So that document will be updated yearly. Like the C Street pump station just got completed, so all the SOPs for that station go into that document as well. So anything that we operate will be SOP.
And any future changes of those SOPs will be updated in
every
it.
single year.
And so
Yeah.
to the extent that it's a living document, it seems like if we're trying to project what's going to be done every year for the next 3 years, I mean, that could change.
Yes.
Year 3 could change after year 2, and year 5 could change after year 3, depending on, what other priorities are identified, other SOPs are included.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Richard?
David, this is all required by the consent agreement.
This is on that.
So is it an open-ended consent agreement, or do you reach a point where you finish?
The way they write them, and the way ours is written, it's pretty much, there's no sunset date or anything like that.
Right.
It's until once we get the manual completed and all those documents, then we can approach EPA, DEP, and then see if we can get changes or corrections to the consent order. We've repaired why we have a consent order, that's already done. And then it's gonna be at least 3 years of hard, they're gonna be thumb on us. And then going forward, it may get eased up, or we may at some point be able to get rid of it. But right now, it's open-ended.
Okay, thanks. Great. Before we move on, I just want to do you mentioned C Street. So for the Planet, Brian, are we gonna carry the 450 for FY20 up under the existing C Street pump station? That would be the 450 that is gonna carry over to annual town meeting, I presume, for repairs.
Money that was on the, no, we're not.
So how are we gonna track that for FY20 request?
The supplemental funding, it's gonna be eliminated, it's gone. So it no longer exists.
It no longer exists as a request,
Yeah.
but it exists as a need.
No, it does not exist as a need. We're gonna pay for it a different way.
Okay, so let's talk about that when we meet,
So what?
just so I get an idea of what.
Yeah, it's gone because we have another article that was within that area that we're gonna pay for it for. We were going to try to leverage SRF funding, but we needed authorization to borrow the money to be able to leverage the additional SRF funding. When that failed last night, we cannot wait. So
Okay.
there's an alternate funding source that we're gonna use instead.
So that'll get absorbed into an alternate appropriation.
So it will not come forward again.
Okay. Okay, so that addresses that. I guess we're down to perimeter fencing, David.
This is one that was brought forward in 2017. It was the first time we saw it, and the board was looking for more detailed information, costs, etc. Unfortunately, that was going to be one of my goals this winter, but life changed drastically for me. So I have not done any further work on the perimeter fence. It is still needed. The goal this spring or this fall is to try to get the contractors out this fall to give me some actual, real hard numbers. If anyone's been out there to look at the fence, it is wire tied together right now.
Can I interrupt for a second? We were also gonna look at reducing the area of it so that it surrounds more like the buildings rather than the beds, right?
That's what we had discussed, yes. Yeah.
So the plant proper, okay, that, I was gonna ask you
That's
about
what you
that.
talked about last year.
Yeah, and you've been out there?
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
so, go ahead.
So I think David just hasn't been able to get to it.
Yeah, I gotcha. So what we're looking for that then, David, is if you could break it down into the two categories.
Yes.
So that we have them both and, we can review them. And Brian, would you do that as a, two SIP request forms or do it as a phase? I would probably say two.
I would do two because
It's
we're breaking
separate.
it apart and they
Yeah.
conceptually are separate projects.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you
Yep.
agree with that?
Yep. So it'd be basically two new requests, but if you get it in, we can review it. And I understand there's other stuff going on, but just so you're aware if we have it.
And I know at one point when Brian and I, or Libby had discussed, we were gonna ultimately get the insurance people to come out just to take and verify what we can do and what we couldn't do, so. That all has to still take place, that has not happened
Well,
yet.
I mentioned this to our insurance consultant, so I'll see what he thoughts.
Because some of the beds do maintain up to a 2 or 3 foot water level, and we don't want anyone swimming.
All right, so you guys are gonna break it into two areas, the plant and the beds, and it'll be two SIP request forms.
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll let you deal with the details of that, cause it's, kinda internal administration and management. We're gonna jump down to the Surfside wastewater treatment facility phase 2 upgrades.
Okay, the phase 2 upgrade, was put in, when we put out the first phase, the original upgrade, we had everything in the project as it was, and we had, obtained funding for 8.8 million. The bids all came back at 14 million and higher. So we had to go back to, planning, design, and rebidding to get to where we ended up at with the 8, so we had to take out almost $7 million worth of stuff that was originally required or requested. So this is to take and come back with phase 2, get into the design. Now that we we're close to having the phase one done. Some of our needs and requirements may change once the new plan gets put online. So this number could go down, it could go up. At this time, we don't know 100% yet. There's been so much work out there and so many changes that we won't know fully until we're online for at least 6 months or a year. So this may even end up getting pushed out yet another year or so, but design will start as soon as we're complete with one phase, so we know what phase two will look like.
Okay. And then, just while we're on that, anyone have questions, comments? Okay, so David, just the 600 for FY19, refresh me in terms of reassessment and design. Has any of that started? Have we expended any of those funds?
The consultant has started. They did the state request to be on the I can't remember the name of that. What's this? Intended use plan. So this project is on the intended use plan for SRF funding. So they have done some expenditures on that budget to take and move forward. So at least that part was done. And like I said, they're going to get ready to start on phase two design once phase one is a little bit further along.
So that was the intended use plan for phase two.
Yes.
And
that list already came out. That was approved.
Okay, great. Any other comments at this point or concerns? No? All right, so we're gonna flip the page to Jetties Beach, the Bathing Beach Road sewers.
Yeah, that was in last year in detail, and there was a lot of data that was provided on that.
Yep.
Again, that project was going to take place last winter, but was unable to take place. The engineers are already on the design part of it. One of the things that we found at last year's storms that we had originally we weren't too aware of was the amount of water that we had in that area last year that stayed in that area that really complicated some issues. The reason we want to replace the sewer main itself was because of II. We did not know how bad it was till last year's storm. We actually had to plug the whole sewer line on Bathing Beach Road because we were draining the ocean on a daily basis. So we actually plugged it, which created other issues for Jeff Carlson and them because they couldn't get to their building because the water wasn't going anywhere. So at one point in time, we did have to pull the plug to drain the lot so that they could get in there and work. The line's in worse condition than we had originally thought. So the engineers are well underway. One of the other pieces of this puzzle that we're going to, the two pieces of the puzzle that we're going to add to this, under the same funding, will be an external grease interceptor. That building is so old and the kitchen's designed in a way that there's not a lot of grease protection, and we have to go down every day now with the jet truck and jet the lines because of grease. And that's basically just because it's an old kitchen with inadequate grease capture inside. So we're going to put an external watertight, buoyancy restricted, so that once we put this tank in the ground, it can't float. So that'll be part of the replacement, as well as our intentions are to put in a 2-inch pressure main, force main, that would go to a chamber in the parking lot to help with some of the flooding. Currently, every time it rains, we have to send a crew down to pump out the parking lot so they can use the building. So we're going to try to take and hit two birds with one stone with that additional grease trap interceptor outside the building.
And David, so the grease trap, the external buoyancy restricted unit, is part of the FY19?
It is. It's part of that same funding, which is the design for that is still coming.
Okay, and then the 2-inch force main, is that under the FY20?
That'll be part of the same project. It'll be when they replace the sewer main, they're going to install that force main at the same time. So there'll be no further work after.
Okay, I'm just in terms of the FY20 request. Can you give us the rundown on the 285? 285,000.
came out of some of the, that was basically a placeholder because of the damage that we discovered, how bad that line actually was. One of the things that we don't know yet until, that line hasn't been cambered yet because that wasn't on our priority list last year. There's two branches of that line that go, one goes down Hubbard Avenue ways and one goes over towards Pug of it, that we don't know the conditions of those lines yet. We haven't got those cambered. So that additional 285 may be just because we might have to do a couple of extensions. We don't know yet till the design and the inspection's done. So that was just a placeholder. I don't foresee us really having to go after that, but I wanted something there that at least that you guys were aware that there may be a need to expand a little further.
Okay, and then, and is that something that you would actually get to in FY20, or is it something that the FY19 work will be done in 20?
I'm hoping that we're gonna be able to get out the bid here this winter and maybe get the work done over this winter for the that under that 19 appropriation.
So
All right.
are we kind of saying we don't need this for 2020?
We may not. I just don't know yet until they get in there and inspect it.
And when are you anticipating that'll be?
Well, we're gonna take a new inspection with our own truck. That's gonna be the plan. That's on our hot list now to get done. So.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone, I mean, just to be clear, I don't think anyone is concerned. If we need the money to complete the work, we're relying on you to let us know that, which
Yes.
you're broadcasting that may be the necessity. What we're looking at is our schedule to make recommendations, and we don't want to make recommendations in favor of something we don't need to spend. So what I'm trying to figure out is, when will you know whether you're gonna need that money for FY20 or not?
I should know within a month and a half, when they get there. I'm not sure if that's too far out for you guys. Or
It's pretty close to too far out, but
also,
if it is, we can just hold off on that.
well, just timing wise, if we're gonna start the work this winter, and somehow we think it's gonna cost more than we already have right now in our budget,
Yeah.
this wouldn't even kick in until after July 1, so are we gonna stop the work and start it again?
May have to be a phase. There may be a point where we can get to construction and phase it and cap it. We have to continue the following year.
So I guess what I'm hearing is, we need to know sooner rather than later that this money is needed at 20, like, by the end of November at the latest.
yeah, so let's put a date on it, if we may, which is, well, I'll give you a date as we're going through here. I got another question for you while I'm looking that up.
What's today, Teresa? I can have it within the first 2 weeks of November, I'm sure.
Okay.
The consultants are already working on it, so it's.
Well, that's great. So we'll have that information. The question I have for you on that 2-inch force main, that's primarily for drainage?
It's for stormwater, yes.
Okay, so, and just while we're here, how does that work out? Where is that gonna tie
It's
in?
basically gonna take and move the puddle that's in the parking lot until we can take and get, DPW can get designs to regrade the parking lot so that the restaurant can be used when it rains, and it's gonna be discharged into the existing stormwater system on North Beach Street. It's just going from the puddle at the restaurant down to the catch basin at the intersection of Bathing Beach and North Beach.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that it's stormwater.
It's just moving it down the line.
Mm-hmm. Peter?
The 2-inch, who decides, if that's enough capacity for down there? Is that a call you guys make, or
The engineer will
engineers?
take a design
Engineer?
that, yeah. The 2 inches even a little larger than we need.
Is it? Okay.
It's only gonna be even a smaller than a grinder pump in the house. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna be a small pump that's only gonna go on when it rains. It's
Yeah.
gonna be, if it rains, it'll turn on.
Float switch or something?
If we have a storm of flooding, it will not activate.
Oh, really?
That's,
Oh,
because we don't, until the flooding subsides enough, we don't wanna keep pumping the ocean.
right, up in the
until after.
stormwater
So it's gonna be
system.
monitored and, have automatic floats and stuff like that, so.
That's why I was thinking about it, because when it floods down there from storms, it's
Yeah,
a
no,
lot
it's-
of water.
No, we'll
So
shut
2
it
inches
off
wouldn't
during
seem like
that.
it was enough, but
Yeah.
if you're not gonna pump that out, then,
It's basically to keep the restaurant open in the summertime.
right, just when it's a standard rainstorm. Interesting.
So David, I think I'd like to set a hard date of Monday, 11th, November 12th
Okay.
for that. That would be very helpful to us, because we're gonna be doing our rankings and stuff, so it'll just be a lot easier to work into
I
the.
get them to Brian as soon as I get the numbers.
Yeah,
I'll get them to you.
and then I would just suggest, obviously you're gonna be doing this planning anyways, but as mobilization fits in and opening and reopening and closing the road and things, if it makes sense to be getting the funding, maybe the logistics of doing the work are going to play into, if you need funding, additional funding, then that becomes one of the variables in the schedule of the work, obviously. So maybe you guys get together and figure out how you want to deal with that.
And luckily, something that has come out of the CMOM program that has never really been practiced on Nantucket or experienced is different technologies for these sewer replacements. Instead of doing full-blown excavation and replacement, you can slip line, you can pipe burst. So there's other options that we look at that on this one, especially because of high groundwater levels, this may be a perfect candidate for pipe bursting, to dig a hole by Hobart Avenue and then just pull a pipe the whole entire length of the restaurant without having to dig up anything. It saves a lot for construction.
Have you guys done that around the island yet?
They did it during the Phase 2B on Orange Street, and that was the only one that I think has ever been done here that I can remember my time, when they first.
Relatively new, right? At least to Nantucket.
It's not really a relatively new construction, it's new to Nantucket.
Right. And that worked out well?
It worked out very well. On Nantucket, a lot of, everywhere else they do a lot of cured in place, they actually pull a liner in, inflate it, so you don't have to dig up the roads.
Yep.
I've never seen it done here, ever. I've never experienced it in person either, so. It's something to start looking at.
Right.
Some of these roads we may not have to dig up. We may be able to line them.
Ideally, yeah.
That'd be great. Okay, good. So thank you for that. Goose Pond bike path, and then we'll get to.
Yeah, the Goose Pond is one that came up when they did the bike path down there. And this most likely will not go forward until at least they get the, I think they have the permits. They filed the final permits for the Goose Pond project that DPW is doing, because they're gonna be digging our whole area up. Consume, yeah, Consume. Right. So we wouldn't do this work until the Consume project was going on. So this could still be a couple of years out. The line's operating, we keep maintaining it. We've had to fix a couple sections. So this was put in there because during construction, when they were doing the bike path a few years ago, they damaged the line, which made us camera it and realize that it needed some help, but we've been able to keep it running as of right now. And we put other means in place when they did that bike path, so that if we had to technically bypass or eliminate that line that went over the old railroad bed, we installed some force mains in Goose Pond Lane itself, that if we had to put a pump station in, we'd have the ability to. So we've kind of prepped already to do, but I don't foresee the Goose Pond going ahead, at least for another year or two, until the town can get the rest of the permits for that other work that needs to be done.
Libby.
Maybe that should be moved.
So we can take and push this out.
We can get an update from them, but the permitting was gonna take quite a bit.
Yeah, that's all I was gonna ask. If you knew, and if not, obviously it's not on the tip of a.
I'd say we can at least move it out another year minimum, but possibly two.
Okay, so what I think we'll go with knowing that, and we'll go with Libby. We'll check with Rob and see where that stands. So the idea being that if he thinks it might, I guess my only concern would be is if he thinks there's a chance it would happen earlier than it's scheduled for some reason, because mobilization or logistics or whatever it is, that we would have the funding in place that we need, and that would be the reason we'd keep it in for FY20. Okay, so that'll be an outstanding item. Okay, great. Thank you, David. We're gonna do the replace the loader, the one-ton truck, and the rotting truck.
The replacement for loader was, I had all that information last year and all the documentation for everybody. It is to replace a 2006 John Deere. It's basically a farm tractor that we utilize for bed maintenance, loading and unloading trucks. We have to maintain the 15 beds in town and the 6 beds in Sconset. We also use it for mowing and some snow plowing. I did have quotes and everything from last year, 3 different quotes from all state vendors. So what the numbers that I had there was that was an actual hard number. It wasn't just an estimate. That tractor, unfortunately, has spent almost its entire life outside. That's one of the few pieces of equipment that we don't. It's so long we can't stick it inside, and it's suffering from it. It's still operable. We use it on a weekly basis, but it's definitely needs to be looked at. It's 12, 14, almost 13 years old, and it's spent its entire life in the sewer beds. So.
Mm-hmm. And are you actually looking at replacing it in like kind with a tractor or a loader?
Well, it's basically a John Deere loader or tractor. It's got a removable loader on the front of it, so it does have a loader part of it. We have looked at different options from replacing it altogether, possibly with either a skid steer type unit that could still take the implements that we have, because we have harrows, disc harrows, rototillers and everything like that to maintain the beds. We were trying to go more multi-purpose on the vehicle. This is pretty limited to where it can, to drive it over to Wisconsin, it takes 45 minutes. It's just that slow. So, and we don't have a trail big enough to put something like this on.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to think possibly going with another type of utility vehicle. But I do have quotes to replace it in kind right now with Kubota, John Deere, and Case. But
So in terms of the existing equipment, how much longer does it have before are you expending a bunch of money on repairs or anticipating it?
we are spending quite a bit. We have to put all brand new tires on it now, which is like $14,000 just for tires. They're plugged. We keep filling them up with air. The parts are starting to really rust badly. The disc harrow has fallen apart in many pieces. We're trying to replace pieces of that right now. But it's used for, when it was bought originally, it was used for one purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and that was to maintain the beds. And we're looking at something that's a little more versatile.
Okay. Questions, comments at this point? I think my only would be, it's going to benefit you if you're a little more definitive in exactly what you want, and let us know and give us a tear sheet and say.
Which I have all that from. I would buy the exact same machine again a couple of years ago, but now
Right.
knowing what's gone on over the last.
Yeah, no, I get you. I'm just saying for, going forward so that we can make a, so
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on exercise privilege here and put that one on our next time we meet with David for review, for you to fine tune what your request is, and it may be exactly what it was before, but just to fine tune it and give us the tear sheet and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
so we know exactly what we're looking at as a expenditure.
And I think most of those documents were on plan, I believe. All the quotes were anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you're saying that you're thinking about maybe different equipment and just whatever it is you decide is best for the department and you resolve and discuss with Libby, let us know what it is so we can make a determination on our own recommendation. Okay, the 1-ton truck?
That is a F-550 pickup dump truck, 1 ton. That was originally purchased in 2010. That truck has spent most of its life plowing the village of Sconset. That is the Sconset Village plow truck. Based more when we were part of DPW, we did a lot more plowing. I don't know if that's going to start to be limited or because they've got more equipment. But that truck is a committed snow plow truck and utility truck for around the plant. It's just one of the small 1-ton dump trucks, and it's really suffering now. We just had to spend a few $1,000s for all the brake lines rotted out, the power steering lines have rotted out. It's at the point now where we're starting to put money in it, and it's almost 8 years old, so.
Yeah.
And this is another vehicle that has spent quite a bit of time outside because of the size.
Questions?
Probably just another one where a tear sheet would be nice to see exactly what it's going towards.
Yeah, this is one that the 60,000 or the 106,000 was based on quotes at the time we did this, and this was submitted back in a couple of years ago. So I don't have a brand new updated quote.
So if for our next meeting you have that with any attachments or whatnot, I mean, I presume that at 106 it's got some other stuff going on there. Okay, and the rotting truck?
The rotting truck is the, called Truck 4. It's the one that, that Perry Butler always drove, and now our crew is driving that. Again, that was also purchased in 2010. That truck is on the road every single day, in operation every day, maintaining the sewer lines. A thing that has gone on since this truck was purchased originally now is some of the technologies have changed.
Mhm.
There aren't too many municipalities that use rod trucks anymore. However, there's not too many municipalities that have as much clay tile pipe as we do, and root intrusion. This truck is extremely useful for cutting roots and removing root blockages. The new technologies for the jet truck and stuff incorporate chain cutters, and you can't use it on clay pipe. So this truck is something that's critical for our operation. And like I said, the technologies have changed, so that the 2006 price was a quote from 3 years ago now, I guess it was. So these numbers have to be updated, and I didn't update a lot of these because I only concentrated on some of the newer requests this year. So. But it will be replaced in kind with the same type. It would end up being another Ford chassis. Whether it become a 550 or a 650, a little heavier duty truck, and then possibly be able to exchange the rotting unit, we don't know. It's starting to cost us some money.
Okay, so I think that's just gonna fall into the other category of an updated tear sheet, you know, a quote, and that would be helpful. And then, forgive me, but I was not able to find a SIP request form for the Wisconsin design and construction of the new collections.
Yeah, that hasn't gone. That hasn't. The CMOM program initiated last year did. We CCTV'd the entire village of Wisconsin. That was a top priority for us.
Yeah.
And we don't have the basis of design or construction plans yet. That report is now just coming out from Hazen, and that's what's going to generate the construction design. That was put in as a placeholder because 2 town meetings ago, a lot more area in Wisconsin was added to the collection system. So that's why we prioritize that, to get it cambered first to see our needs. And we have found that the needs in Wisconsin are a lot. So there is no design or construction plans set in motion yet. That 350 will be used to get into the design based on the CMOM data that's coming out.
Okay, and can you maybe talk to us, I just want to jump back while it's top quote, to how that's going to relate with the page 1, bottom of the page, replace sewer mains with Wanacommet Waterco project areas. Bear with me here. Wanacommet has about 1.9 in for FY20, 1.9 million in.
Probably shouldn't be in there. If it is, that's a mistake. Those were FY19 budgets. I'm sorry.
Which one?
It's Wanacommet's request is their request that we met them for is sconce at FY20 1.9 million.
Okay.
It won't be on David's sheet, page 1, replace sewer mains within the Wanacommet Waterco project areas, but that's why I'm bringing it up, is that FY20, there's no request to do, wait 1 second, just bear with me because it all kind of ties together. There's no request to do any sewer work there, but then we have this design that will, design and construction that will come out of the CMOM, which is on page 2, which you've got is the Wisconsin Design and Construction New Collections. So I just want to make sure that I know you guys are working closely together, but I want to make sure you're tying that together and it's resulting in a request, if there is going to be a request for FY20, for Capital Committee to review and make a recommendation on. Because right now, we have definitively Wanacommet is going to be, Wisconsin Water Company currently is going to be working out there doing a bunch of work. You have work that you anticipate doing, so I just want to make sure those are kind of coalescing in terms of the work schedule and logistics, and then if there's a request for us. So that's the only reason I'm pointing it out, because I'm looking at our information, I'm seeing that there may be, it may be you already done it, but it's not connected, the dots
No,
aren't
I
connected.
have no, I don't even know anything about Wisconsin. I'm almost wondering if that Wisconsin water main work is Baxter Road.
No, that's separate, I think.
Separate?
Yeah.
All right.
It looks like it is.
Yeah, I was unaware they were doing stuff in Wisconsin. I mean,
So-
we were concentrating on all the in-town stuff.
No, it's not an issue until it is, that's why I'm bringing it up, so that you are aware, if you're not, and you guys coordinate.
Yeah, no, I will get with Mark.
So what that would mean in terms of outstanding items, Rebecca, if I may, is the, let me see if I can track this. So page 1, replace sewer mains with Wanacomit Water Co. project areas, FY20 from sewer is an open matter, is there gonna be a request? And then that relates to page 2, the Sconset design and construction new collections and how those tie together. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any requests for 20 for anything to do with water. We did it all for 19.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then-
again, it's just a matter of, we're a team, we're trying to make sure we get all the Ts crossed and the Is dotted.
No, the Wisconsin one's a big interest to me, so I will talk with Mark.
Yeah, and you did mention it when we met as liaisons, that there was quite a bit of work there that you picked up in the CMOM, in terms, due to the age of the system and so on and so forth. So it's just gonna be critical that we're on top of that. Placeholders, I guess we could touch on briefly. This is more of a technical, just document paperwork stuff. Libby, the Harbor Place development improvements, we're just putting off as a placeholder. You want to have discussion on this? Okay.
All right.
Okay, good. I mean, it's not necessarily good or bad, but good in terms of going through my checklist here. So with respect to, Rebecca, if I may, the Rory, that in the heading is listed out with a dollar number that we can scratch, and we won't actually be doing anything in the Rory with it. And we don't have to worry about the SIP request form having out years or backup, because that is just on a hold. Okay. Bear with me, guys, just while I clean up some paperwork here with this stuff. The placeholder for the South Shore Road improvements, is that something, again, well, let me ask you, Libby, same thing?
What is National Road Improvement?
This all had to do with that 40B that we still don't know
But
which way.
What road improvements?
It would have been ultimately for, depending on whether the town had to get involved with putting the sewers in or paving, or
So is this a sewer improvement?
it would have, depending on what the 40B comes, it would have been either or. I just put it in there as a place, just in case we know if something's coming on South Shore Road.
Okay, so what I was saying on this is, I think the description's a little not 100% right. This is more, it is a placeholder, and it is more what the sewer might need to be upgraded to if this development proceeds.
Mhm.
But there is an outstanding question about who pays for it. I
Right.
think the town's position right at the moment is the developer will pay for it. But as you all know, the whole thing is a bit up in the air right now. David is waiting on the finalization of a detailed design for them to connect to sewer. There's a force main they can't just tie into.
Right, they're gonna need to run, a supplemental force main needs to be run from
Or a
one end of the
gravity
street to the other.
Yeah, they I think are proposing a gravity line with pump station as far as we know, but. it's
That's the
on-
latest it's not completed plan yet, so it's not really.
So David's engineer is taking a look once we get the more detailed plans.
Yeah.
So this is a bit up in the air, but it may be some,
But if it happens, we're gonna need and the town has to pay for it,
well,
we would need funding.
yeah, if the town has to pay for it.
So it sounds like it'd be more of something we just deal with when it comes up. It's not a typical,
It's not,
I mean, this is clearly a one-off,
yeah,
but it's not something we can deal with in our process. We don't have any information to make decisions, to even
Exactly.
discuss for determinations.
yeah.
So the only comment, I'd like to make a comment, and it may actually be at a policy level. So I just want to make the comment in terms of a recommendation. We did discuss this as liaisons with David, and we got into a little bit of detail just in terms of what's being proposed and that the town may end up at some point taking this as a gift or otherwise. And I just wanted to be clear that from my standpoint, there's two ways to do that. One is to provide them with a design specification, which we then, as the owner, as the party providing it, own. So if there's any deficiencies, the developers know, they may have to pay for it and gift it to us, but we're at fault. Whereas I would suggest that maybe a different way to approach it that would cover our interest is to provide them a performance standard and say, these are the thresholds you need to meet in each of the categories that are relevant. You design the system, you're responsible for that system, even if you gift it to us. If it's deficient, it's not on our dime, it's on their dime. And I'm not suggesting this relative to a particular developer. I'm suggesting it as kind of a policy approach to how capital improvements that the town is going to be gifted or inherited receives them. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it has a dollar amount attached to it later on. If the town provides a design specification, we're on the hook if something is deficient. If we provide a performance standard and what they design and deliver doesn't meet the performance standard, we're not on the hook, they're on the hook. So there's definitely a huge potential difference in cash outlay over the useful life of the asset. So I just wanted to mention that if it's okay
I think
to.
that's our plan.
That is
Okay,
our engineer is already working on this plan.
right. Well, you had
With
mentioned
them.
that he was doing a design, and that was my concern, is that if we're providing a design specification, we're on the hook. If we're not,
Well, we're providing them what we just put in a design recommendation, not a
Sure.
specific, it was just or a performance standard, basically what it was. We gave them the plans for a pump station that was recently installed. This is what it has to
sure,
be, so it's.
And I think it's also, if there are X number of gallons expected out of this pipe or our system needs to accommodate that. How would you do it?
right. So not only is it the delivery system, it's the output.
Yeah,
It's tied in
yes.
in terms of
Yeah, and
improvements.
we have others that might tie into that along the route,
right. Okay.
not even connected to.
Any plan that they provide, they have to take and do full build-out specification on projected flows.
Sure.
And they also have to do the projected flows for every single lot that they pass
Yeah.
down the street. That's all something that those numbers are still being developed.
That's great. That's great. So yeah, so it wasn't. I didn't want to presume one way or the other, but I did want to make the comment because it was relevant to where we were and some of the discussion we had. Is the performance standard is definitely the benefit to the town. Are there any thoughts just on that? I mean, it's not really a topic we're getting into of a recommendation, but a request we're getting into for a recommendation. But are any thoughts generally on it? No. Okay. Good.
It's definitely something we're treading very
Good in terms
cautiously on.
Good in terms of another thing to cross off the checklist. Other one I just wanted to hit is just some cleanup before we get back into request. Our the sewer force main design and planning on page 2, which is just under the South Shore Road improvements. So that's 20-02. That is the C Street.
And it's for the replacements portion.
Should be 2.5.
Yeah.
This
So
is what we couldn't act on last night through the
Yeah.
forum,
right.
so it's gonna go to the annual.
Okay, so that, yeah, so that's what I wanted to check that. Thank you for letting me know. And Rebecca, the FY20 should go to 2.5 million.
2.5, okay, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, great. And
We have already, just to let you know, we have already filed the applications to get the construction on the intended easement, the next upcoming intended easement.
we have filed.
Yes.
And do you guys want to ask David any question on out year on that project? We might have been able to do that as we went along. Apologize for the oversight, but just while we're on the C Street, so we've got an FY22 request for 20 million. David, maybe you just, what are you basing that on? And is it a placeholder? Is it?
That number was a placeholder, because with the engineering that would take place, will ultimately give us our, I have 2 proposed route plans. Engineering may look at it and say, well, we can't go X, we can go Y. So the number was based on, again, SHMO bids, recent SHMO bids and water company bids, as just a per linear foot estimate. It's 20 million, I have a feeling is very high, but it was just a placeholder to say, we need to do something, pretty quickly.
Okay. So we're, this is part of our process, Brian.
Just to add to this, if this makes the intended use plan, which we have to talk to, I know that Hazen sorted about the paperwork for us. If it does make it on the list, then we're gonna have to put the entire authorization request on the town meeting warrant, because we will have until June 30th to get funding approved for the piece that's on the intended use plan. So the possibility exists that this will be the entire project on fiscal 20, or else we would fall off the intended use plan and have to reapply in a subsequent year.
But we could do that.
We could do that, yes. Absolutely, that would have to be a discussion, but just, the discussion could
Because
come
we've done
to,
that before.
Yes.
And if we want a good solid number, we might need to do
we
that.
might need to wait, but.
But we can't wait many years.
No, and then that's gonna tie into what other projects are going on, if, depending on the route, so.
Yeah, that's one thing and that cost could drop substantially if we're able to combine it with sewer, water, stormwater projects to go down the same roads that are all being dug up anyways.
So when, thank you, yeah, that makes sense. Brian, and Libby, along those lines, when will you all know whether this is gonna be on the FY20, closer to the FY20 side of the fence,
Well,
or?
actually, that's a good question. We probably need to talk about it a little bit internally, but now that we didn't act on it last night, we don't have design
It
money.
won't even be for
So we won't even be
FY21.
able to
We
get a
may not
better.
be able to hit anything, so we may have to, if it was on the intended use plan, we may have to forego being on
Anyway,
that anyway.
so we may have to just go with the design,
Right.
resubmitted at the annual with construction at 2020 in
21, which seems more likely based upon, unless there's
Yeah.
another special town meeting in January.
Oh.
I'm not suggesting it.
thank
No.
you.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I mean, we didn't have a quorum there, we're not likely gonna have one in the dead of winter. I heard there's a bylaw someone is putting out so that we can vote by phone app, smartphone app.
It's not
It's not even
a joke, right?
I am very much joking.
There are
Um,
serious
Bad idea.
concerns on this, so this needs to stay on the radar.
Oh, yeah, no one suggested, I'm just trying to figure out, when I'm asking these questions, David, just so you have an understanding, is I'm looking at what is our internal process as well as getting information from you, and when we have our own deadlines, so
We can reach out to, Hazen and sort and find out when the intended use plan is released to find out. But to the town manager's point, getting design money in April may not enable us to meet any of the benchmarks anyway.
I think we're pushing this
So-
construction number out to 21, and hopefully with our contacts at DEP, we can work that.
So the intended use plan is predicated on a design without
The
getting,
benchmark, once you're on it, you have to have approval for the funding by, I believe it's June 30th of the subsequent year, because it comes out.
right,
And then you have benchmarks through October of that year to hit, to continue along the path. And
okay.
to the town manager's point, we may not be able to hit all of the steps along the way. But it's something we need to be cognizant of, given the sewer directors.
Right, and I mean, given our annual fall town meeting, it might just move to, who knows, like, it has to happen, it's either gonna be for the next, not for the town meeting schedule that's coming
5% of
up.
registered voters need to be there.
Yeah. No, I gotcha.
Change.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that open, it's an outstanding item, but it's not an action item, because it's gonna go to FY21. So that's a soft highlight orange.
Mr. Chairman, quick question for you.
Yes,
Just
please.
looking at the this sheet, there's the 18003 and the 20023. I'm sorry, 22.
Mhm.
Are they the same thing on this sheet? 2.5 and
No.
We asked the same question when we were met with David.
new sewer force main design, C Street to sewer side, and then the
Yeah, that force main assessment was based on when we were doing the project at C Street, our full intention was to leave the 20-inch force main disconnected so we could inspect it before we put it back online. The force main incident happened, we didn't have that luxury. So we had to put the 20 back online without any assessment or inspection. Subsequently, during the force main repairs, we did do spot inspections, electromagnetic and acoustic inspections along the line to verify at least its condition assessment, very sparingly at different spots. So that money was we were never able to do the full-blown assessment, so that's different.
okay.
The sewer force main down below is for a brand-new force main.
Okay.
The one up above was to assess the existing 20-inch.
Then what was the
Didn't we already have money to assess the existing?
We did have we did have the money to assess it, but we didn't get to do it.
I know, but why do we need 2 million again in 20? So,
That was an estimate, or as a placeholder in case we found deficiencies in the line.
okay, so Jason's bringing up a good point. Do we need that for 20?
The
If we already have-
$2 million, no, we don't need that, the
Yeah.
$2 million.
And what about the 20 million and 20?
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah,
Until we know the assessment, I honestly can't answer. I don't know. If we
Okay,
find
so-
that line to be perfectly good, we won't need any more money.
Okay.
If we find it's got some deficiencies, we might need some.
so clarify
Okay.
for me, outside of the dollars, when is the assessment for that sewer force main complete? And
Well, at this point in time, we
It's
can't
on
do it, we can't
hold.
do it.
Because it's in use right now, and we don't want to go use the.
Oh, that's the backup. Oh, right, we talked about that. So that's the C Street, what we're calling the C Street backup.
So we would have
Or what
been
I'm
able to
calling
do the
C-Street
assessment if we had a new force main, but we can't right now.
Okay, so we're gonna hold on the assessment.
You may want to call that existing. force
Existing,
main.
yeah, change the name of the 20-inch, existing 20-inch.
Yeah, we actually talked briefly with David about some type of coding system for the different force mains, so that even if it's a numerical or an alphanumerical sequence, so that it can be identified with a key somewhere if we have like a sewer sheet in our folders as members. Just, it gets confusing. Because there's another, we haven't gone through all the requests, but we're going to at some point.
The other one was the collection system rehab, I think we talked about. It wasn't specified for anything. The 19004. And I believe those were put in back in before my time.
Bear with me one second.
Yeah, those are in there. a long time.
So that one was there.
But
Okay,
they were
so the-
called things, area.
M1, M2, they were called different things in the day.
So the duplicate sewer force main design and planning has been removed.
Or-
There was a duplicate when we met, but that's gone. Okay, so that's been addressed, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we're gonna kind of go back and kind of make some decisions, guys. We've covered, I think we don't have a SIP request form for the Baxter sewer. We don't have a,
We just recently received draft plans for a new Baxter Road, but we're way out. We're
Yeah.
still
Can
way
I
out.
say something about?
yeah, please.
There's a lot of issues with Baxter Road in general.
Yeah.
And it's not just it's the road, it's the sewer, it's the water, it's other utilities and a lot of things. So over the course of the next few months probably, staff is working on, with our engineer, alternatives to a road relocation plan.
Mhm.
And it's unlikely to be moving Baxter Road over here. It's more likely to be having a number of different connections to the homes from a different road, possibly Sankaty Road, because of the way the topography is. There are wetlands, there are private property issues, multiple private property issues. And that will probably a little drive how the sewer would get redesigned and the water would get redesigned ultimately, long term.
Can I ask a question just in general? I don't know the law on this, but so that the town is required, if a property is within a sewer district, and I'm not suggesting we do anything, I just want to understand, what are our obligations as a municipality to provide sewerage for homes within a zone? Is that a requirement?
No, it's not a requirement.
So,
It
and then,
allows them to be connected to the sewer.
okay, so, but the roadway is something that we're bound to provide access? Even under
Anything
acts
that
of
show-
God?
Yes,
Even under acts of God, like we're getting out there?
yeah.
Okay.
And these homes are already all served by sewer already.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm not asking to, I don't have any horse in the race. I've got no agenda. I just wanted to understand what drives, I mean, clearly they're there, they have sewer, and they need some way to get rid of their waste, the effluent. So, I mean, that's driving it. But I was just kind of uncertain of what our responsibilities were.
Well, yeah, not to take it too far, but I mean, as an example, as a potential scenario, if the town said, okay, we're not doing the sewer, we're not relocating the sewer, so everybody's gonna have to go on septic, they might not be able to go on septic. For a variety of reasons,
Right.
any number of reasons.
Yeah.
In which case, they could argue that the property has now been taken
Right.
because they can't use it anymore.
Yeah. So there are legal theories that encumber the town to some extent,
Yeah,
or
that's a-
could result in the town becoming encumbered
that's
to
a
some
good
extent.
way to put it.
Okay, I just for general understanding,
So
because,
we've got more to do on this reconstruction, but I think this number's been in here as a placeholder, 2 million. Or,
Oh, it's been in there since
yeah,
15,
this isn't the first
14, I
time
think this isn't the first
it's
time.
been in here.
okay,
And
so,
it just keeps moving until we know more.
and when do you think we'll have a timeline on that? When do you, is that
Well,
something that we'll have for FY20, or you think it'll be FY21?
Well, we're gonna have a preliminary discussion with the engineers sometime this month, but it is, ultimately, I think the board may want to see some kind of a cost estimate of this overall issue. What is it going to take to retreat from Baxter Road with our infrastructure? And that analysis in and of itself is going to cost something substantial, well over $100,000, which we don't have in the budget now. So I'm a little waiting to get further on. That may become something from town admin for 2019 or for 2020.
Okay, as a
You don't have it yet.
got it. 100K plus.
It's very much of a moving part situation.
Okay, so we'll have some flexibility on that, and I'll note that we've got it as an open issue.
Yeah.
But we don't anticipate a $2 million request for FY20 at this point.
I don't think so,
Okay,
but I would move it to 21.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's been moved out for the last 3 or 4 years. It just keeps getting moved.
So we'll move to 21, knowing that there will be additional information as you all do your thing. Okay, great. The next one, which we have not reviewed and we don't have a CRF for. David, you don't necessarily have to answer these. I'm looking at this point, I think, for input from Libby, and then you, if we go that route, to determine whether we're going to have you, which of the ones you're going to come back on and provide additional information. So the next one in the list is upgrade wastewater lab, which was an 18 request, priority number 2 for FY20. It's in at 125. Is that?
That can get moved out a few years.
That's-
It's another moving target that a lot of stuff's being done on. I don't anticipate, we have money to do a small upgrade and assessment already. This 125 with just placeholders. I think we could slide everything out at least. Maybe move each one out another year.
And Libby, that's where you're at with that?
Yeah, just on that, there's some discussion at other boards about some kind of a central new lab, water quality lab for the town. However, there are a multitude of unanswered questions about it. It's sounding to me as though there's a private effort to engage a consultant to look at what it would take to do this. I looked at the scope of work the other day. But what I don't really see in there, which I need to talk to Roberto about, because the Board of Health has had some discussion about this, is what is the sort of pro forma for this type of project? What will it cost to construct? What will it cost to staff? What will it cost to keep up all the certifications and licenses and all of that? How will it get paid for? What's the expected revenue stream? Where there are, lots of things. So I think the idea of upgrading the wastewater lab came about a little before this idea of the water quality lab. And I think David was maybe hoping to get some upgrades to his lab so that he could do more types of testing there. It doesn't have to go off island, which is all very understandable, even with the other water quality issues. But just, it's a moving target a little bit. Now, it hasn't even really gotten away yet, I don't think, this scope of a potential new town-run lab.
So the
Big undertaking.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So the alternative under development is something that is not likely going to be something we're going to see because it needs to be scoped and costed and so on and so forth. So it won't be likely be an FY20. And yours can go to David's can go to FY21 because there will be an interplay perhaps with what happens with your lab and if that develops.
Yes.
Okay, so the upgrade wastewater lab will move to FY21 at minimum.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we covered the no SIP request form for the existing force main. You can't do that assessment inspection. You're using it. We're down to collection system sewer rehab in at 1.8 million for FY20.
Yeah, this is the one that's it's not associated with any specific area. Could we use funding right now to fix some stuff? Yes, but I'm not prepared to give you guys locations. And then with the CMON program, this could very well be a duplicate.
Absorbed.
It could be absorbed by the CMON program more so than anything.
What about the sewer master plan?
And the sewer master plan as well, which is another thing that's all being developed for. But the sewer master plan, it's going to take and evaluate everything to see where we need to. So we could probably move this out another year or two so that it's there, because the sewer master plan might find something different than what the CMOM is finding. So maybe that would be the easiest way to do it.
And just for us, Dave, thank you. That's helpful. Can you just articulate collection system? What are you talking about there?
All the sewer pipes in the streets, we call it at the collections. It collects all the wastewater, transfers it to a pump station, and then conveys it to the plant.
So nothing plant related. It's all
It's all anything to do outside the plant, pump stations, manholes, all the piping and everything else like that.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought it might be if we have a question, and I'm not afraid
No,
to ask.
it means I mean in the water world, it's not called collections; it's called distribution.
Right.
So there's difference. We collect it; they just distribute it. So.
Right. Great. We talked about replace sewer mains with Wanna We talked page 2, the National Grid L8 feeder project area.
Yes.
Is that? I guess what I want to find out is, my understanding is we need to be able to act on that if we can.
We need to act quickly if something goes on. Yes. And we have a meeting coming up.
Well, this is a moving part also.
Yeah.
They've canceled numerous meetings over the past several months. They keep having emergencies they have to deal with. And most recently, there was some discussion about them doing their project via overhead poles, which came up early on, and we sort of don't really love that idea. However, we need an engineering assessment of our own infrastructure along their route so that we can understand what impact their project may or may not have on our infrastructure. And if it is going to have an impact, then we want to do all that work at the same time while streets are open. But the coordination of that type of effort is massive. And we need our own project manager for our infrastructure, sewer and water, and possibly stormwater. And they have given us some engineering, they've given us an engineering plan that I don't think our engineer has really totally gone through yet.
EPG's done it still.
Right. So it's a moving part, and I don't know, I guess I'd keep that number in there for now. There's a meeting, I think, next week or the week after that's been rescheduled again.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really complicated project.
So I guess the questions I have on that, if I may, are for FY19, what of that is for the what do we have where and how do we coordinate logistics money? Which I think is what you were just saying is,
All of it.
so we have the money. If they come to the table, we have an authorization that we can get funded.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember, did we approve that at last time?
Yes.
We approved some funding at last time.
Yeah, so I think the anticipation there was that would, actually, I think the anticipation there was that might help do a little bit of work on some of the streets.
Right.
But now the project has, even since then, this evolved a bit. And I think that money is being used for the engineering assessment on our part.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be the actual work.
The 6.5.
Yeah.
So then my question on that is, acknowledging the moving parts, what is the likelihood that we could be up against a wall with, they want function under DPU mandate, like what do we need to do to make sure that we're not left out in the cold on this? If they get an order through DPU, and I may be using the wrong terms and whatnot, but I think you get the gist is, this is something it sounds to me like we need to be prepared to be able to act. What do we need to do that? Is it just go for an appropriation, and obviously there's background stuff that needs to be done?
Yeah,
Or is this money, if we seek appropriation for FY20 and receive it, but we don't have the engineering done on what we have where and how to coordinate, we may just not proceed.
I would, maybe, that's an option.
So in that end, we may get, if it were approved, we just wouldn't appropriate it.
Correct.
Okay, just some understanding
Or
of,
borrow it or whatever.
yeah,
We wouldn't borrow it.
borrow it, sorry, I mean,
And
that's what I
then
mean,
we rescind the appropriation.
Rescind the appropriation.
Later.
yeah, borrow. Okay. So you're gonna be, when do you think schedule-wise you're gonna be looking at, do you think you wanna keep that FY20 placeholder in at that amount and we can fine tune it as we get closer
I
to a
would say
recommendation?
yes, just because of the uncertainty of it. Yeah. And
Warren,
this is,
fine tune for recommendation. Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to let you know, I got to leave in about 8 minutes, pick up my
Okay.
kid, which will make us out of quorum. I just want to throw it out there.
Okay. Any questions anybody wants to get in on these? Okay, so I'm going to rush through these. We covered, the ones we haven't covered, David, are the Aurora Way pump station upgrades, the purchase excavation equipment, the new garage and staff housing, and the new sewer vehicle. I would suggest that, given our circumstances, that you would be revisiting us at a date to be determined with those, to the extent they will be FY20 requests, and you will include any tear sheets or additional information that we need.
Yeah, the one request for the excavation equipment is in there for FY20. I have all the tear sheets and everything. I do have those. I tried to upload them to Planet, but I have to send.
So, yeah, you can't put documents in it, you have to send it to
So I have to send it to her. So
Okay,
the
that's
document's
fine.
available already.
Okay, so what I'd like to do then is we'll leave open just as outstanding items, if I may, Rebecca, those 1, 2, 3, 4, and in addition to anything else that's outstanding, and we'll follow up with David. We'll work out a date. I'll look at the calendar, we'll work out a date, and we'll follow up with him on when he needs to get the information in for that meeting, and we'll schedule the meeting. And then, so
What are the 4 again?
so it's on page 2, it starts with purchase excavation equipment,
Yep.
which
Yep.
is in capital letters.
Got it.
The Aurora Way pump station,
Which is out of couple years.
which is 1 down. Down 3, 4th down is new garage and staff housing. 4 down is sewer vehicle.
Okay.
And we would pick those up with David at a later
The
date.
sewer vehicle, I'd ask Brandon, we're just gonna have that be an EIR because it's less than 50,000. So that's not.
it's gonna move to his operating
move it to operating?
Yeah.
Slash it.
Okay, so it'll just be the 3 plus everything else we talked about. Okay, great. So that is gonna be great. David, I wanna thank you. I don't mean to rush you out, but I wanna have you're welcome to stay, but we're gonna have a brief discussion before our quorum breaks. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the information. We look forward to seeing you again the rest of
I
it.
will, work on getting all these documents to either
Okay.
Libby or Brian and you guys.
Okay. You guys, just to abbreviate before we lose quorum, do we have,
Steve, I just have one quick question.
Yes, please.
On sewers for the out years, David?
Yeah.
Are those numbers that are in the SIP reflective of the amount of money that we saved on the, is it Monomoy? Remember we had, the original estimate was huge and the bids
Shimmo?
came in much lower? So,
There are some big SIPs coming up in the future, like, Humming Pond North, Humming Pond South.
Nantucket.
Might come in the needs areas. Those numbers those are not actual. Those are numbers that were put out based on the CWMP. Those numbers haven't been adjusted.
what about the Mattocket, Warren's Landing?
Matic, another one that has not been reevaluated or re-estimated yet, so.
Okay.
okay, we're up against a hard commercial break here, so I'm gonna move us along. Thank you, Richard. And we will, just to be clear, for outstanding items and for David, and for the committee, we will be reviewing out years when we meet with David again. So if there are questions anyone has, we can get into details. I think we can forego committee reports. We can forego good of the order. And I guess the thing, jumping back, are there any questions we have on the materials we covered today with David for Libby or Brian at this point? No. And Libby, any comments or thoughts on those topics? Okay, great. And then committee discussion and ranking, the Rory, I would suggest, can we get a large format print of that?
It's in your,
it's in-
Oh.
your summary sheet.
I couldn't find it either at first.
Perfect.
Sorry,
I found a small one.
they're all stapled.
When I say large
But
format,
I didn't know if you wanted to.
so this was what, I have my transportation one, so that I can like fill it in and you can read it.
Do we know which ones we should hold off on until we have further backup?
I'm gonna suggest that maybe you guys can go through your Rory and do what you want, rank it as best you feel is appropriate, and then we'll pick it up when we meet with David again, and that will give us an opportunity, if we have any questions on it, we can do it. We can address them then. Date of next meeting is Thursday, October 18th, not here, it'll be at 10:30 a.m. in the Wanacommet Water Company Conference Room.
Thanks,
And
David.
with that, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Excellent, thanks, everybody.
Next week is,
I think-
airport and IT.
Yeah, I think it is.